Someone you love is at risk. It could be your father, your brother, a daughter, or even you. At any given time, more than 5 million cult and cult-like group members practice in the United States alone. Upwards of 2,500 groups recruit on college campuses, high schools, malls, and virtually every public place we go to in our everyday lives.
And I know when I left a group that became involved in mind control for almost 2.5 months, I just stayed in my bed unless I had to, because it seemed to me as if the world ended.
The new millennium will bring a torrent of destructive cults.
At which time the other cult members pushed the uniformed officer through a plate glass window in front of a shop.
In every city and town, friends and family members are approached, tricked, and then they disappear, never to be seen again. They will be remembered only as being seduced by the cult. The Seduced by the Cult series is designed to heighten your awareness of the astonishing power of cults and give you the knowledge you need to protect you and those you care about from cults and cult-like groups. The video you're about to see, Prevention Before It's Too Late, will teach you how to spot warning signs that a friend or loved one may be involved with a cult. And if they are, where to go for help.
Cults, as we would define them today, have been around for a long time. There have always been charismatic leaders who have attracted around themselves secretive societies that have tried to basically brainwash their followers into believing without question that the words they speak are directly the words of God or the gods.
Now, personally, I look at some of the cults that I talk about in classroom, and I think some of them are just downright con artists.
My experience has been that usually the indoctrination then takes place over a period of time. The first 4 steps are begun immediately. Generally, by the end of the first week, by the 5th, 6th, 7th day, the person is in a brainwashed state.
Keeping the lines of communications open is very important when someone you care about begins hanging around a suspicious group. Cults and cult-like groups prey on people that are in vulnerable situations. For instance, people recently divorced, or those who have a hard time fitting in with mainstream groups.
My mother ended up becoming totally dependent on the church because it got to a point where financially everything was gone. She had given everything to them, and emotionally she was just beaten emotionally. I mean, she felt like she was nothing without them.
All of us have what I call an icky voice inside of us, a kind of a hunch about bad things happening, a hunch when things are not right. They're deprived of that, and they begin to become tolerant of conditions that none of us would tolerate if they were thrust on all of us altogether. The cults alienate people, isolate them, and then slowly recruit them into positions where psychologically they're harmed, and frequently physically and financially.
I think it would be best to ask, when is a person susceptible to cult recruiting? Because the answer to your question is everybody. What kind of a person? You, me, everyone. It's not a particular kind, it's not a particular IQ, it's not a particular background that makes a person more susceptible. Each of us, from time to time in our lives, go through traumatic experiences, emotional crises, when Mark Twain would say our powers are under a cloud. We're not thinking clearly, we're not able to handle our emotions well, and people come along and they begin to offer us comfort and understanding, and we think it's wonderful, but we're not careful. And we don't see that those offerings of comfort have a price tag. There's a catch.
The influence of the recruiters can be strong depending on where you are in your life. Have you ever been in a situation where you needed a friend? Have you ever been in a situation that you've been lonely? Have you ever been in a situation where you have been depressed? Have you ever been in a situation where you felt my life is meaningless or my life is without purpose? My belief is that every single human being on earth has been in some combination of these situations at some stage in their life. The cult recruiters come in with the illusion of a solution to these problems, and so you or I are then attracted to the cult.
The very sophisticated programs may actually spend time in training the recruiters to identify weaknesses or areas of vulnerability, but it doesn't really require any training. Any one of us can go into a room and spend 10 minutes talking with people and leave with a sense that there's one unhappy person, or one depressed person, or one anxious person, or one person who's very discontent, or one person who's pretty verbal about that no one cares about them, or no one's really there for them, or they feel very alone.
Lonely people are like a magnet for cults and their mind-controlling techniques. Some of the best ways to ensure that you or someone you care about doesn't end up in a cult are to arm yourself with information about cults and cult-like groups, and to talk, listen, and be available for your friends and family.
If a person has a knowledge of what cults are and how they operate, and therefore the signs to look for, your child is more likely to avoid involvement in a cult. So I strongly recommend education through magazines, books, and movies that are produced on the subject.
When we start talking about combating cult mind control, the first thing and the most important thing is what type of communications are in your family. If you don't have good communications with your children before they begin to break out and move away from the home, you're not very likely to have good communications when they move away, and you're probably not going to be a good resource to help them overcome these things.
We have to teach our students and our children from the time they are little, one, you are a decent human being. And that has to be not you're a cute little kid, you know, you can have anything you want. No, you're a decent human being. You are a person who can have pride in yourself. When you fail, you pick yourself up and you can start, and don't let anybody tell you that you're not a good person.
Cult and cult-like groups are designed to be destructive. If you or someone you care about is interested in joining a new organization, you should ask some questions. Do you know anything about the leader or his background? Are the group's beliefs freely disclosed? Does the group undermine relations with family and friends? And do you have the freedom to leave when you want to?
Who are the leaders of this organization? Do we know anything about the leaders? Do we know their background? You know, and what are the requirements of being a part of this organization? You know, do they require that you give a certain amount of your income? Do they require what is it that the organization wants? So you certainly can get information, you being an outside observer, can get information about any organization, and anyone who has a person that they love involved in an organization they question needs to start researching the organization and answering some questions for their own mind.
For me, it's not what a person believes that makes them a cult member. It's what you do with what you believe. So if I believe, as I said before, that you should dress in purple, drink lemonade between 10 and 12, and bow was it 5 times I said to Scottsdale, you can do it and you're not a cult. But if you try to trick me, lie to me, cheat me, to do what you want me to do, then you're a cult. That is, you're destructive, you're harmful, you're dangerous.
Free choice is what's important. When we take away an individual's ability to make free choice and begin to make choices for them, then we take away really the person's individuality. So therefore, that is a cult or a mind control organization.
Cult and cult-like groups pride themselves on being able to lure the unsuspecting. Once a person is seduced, is drawn in, the diabolical leader and followers know how to keep them trapped. That's why research and good communication between friends and family are the best ways to help a person that may be drawn in and seduced by a cult.
And the more severe, the more pathological the cult is, the more difficult escape is. A lot of effort goes into making it clear to people what happens if they try to escape. If someone does, then oftentimes there is the actual chasing or the threatening to either hurt or kill family members, or to show the pictures that they took, or to tell people about what they did when they were in the cult.
Seduced by the Cult, Prevention Before It's Too Late, is one program of a 4-part series, including A Growing Threat, the tricks they use, and how to free a loved one from a cult. To order this video or any of the other videos in this series, Seduced by the Cult, call the Bureau for At-Risk Youth at 1-800-99-YOUTH.